Hello everyone and welcome. In today's video I'm going to be talking about lock-ins, breakouts and Deus Ex Machina and how you can use these techniques to enhance your role-playing games. So if you're not familiar with these terms, a lock-in is a story device where characters are restricted in some way. In a tabletop role-playing game, a lock-in is a dungeon. A breakout is the opposite, so something that liberates the characters. Finally, Deus Ex Machina translates to God out of the machine. When a writer uses Deus Ex Machina, they're providing a solution to a seemingly unsolvable problem. In Greek theatre, mostly in tragedies, an actor playing a god would be winched down or lifted from below to save everyone and resolve the conflict and conclude the story. The evil twin to Deus Ex Machina is Diabolus Ex Machina, or Devil from the Machine. Instead of events taking a turn for the better, they take a turn for the worse, and a malevolent force has to intervene to resolve the situation. Usually, Diabolus Ex Machina would occur at the end of a story, but it can happen earlier on too. If we take Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach, a dubious event happens at the beginning of the plot, when a giant rhinoceros eats James's parents, which sets up why he's living with his cruel aunts. But how do we exactly use these devices in TTRPG writing? Well, lucky for you, I'm about to explain all that. But before I do, if you found what I've said useful so far, please do like and subscribe, as it's a great way to support the channel. Lock-ins in TTRPGs, no end in sight. Or is there? Lock-ins occur in possibly 99.9% of all adventure scenarios. This obviously includes dungeons, a physical lock-in which players must escape from. Additionally, a more abstract example could be a dangerous alliance that traps characters in a difficult situation. Well-written lock-ins force your players to make decisions under pressure. Imagine your players are trapped inside a castle under siege. Perhaps there are limited resources, infighting with NPCs, and a looming threat from the big bad villain or an organisation. This narrative pressure cooker is ideal for crafting a juicy story. Moreover, a high-stakes environment like this forces your players to make difficult decisions. Do they defend the gate, or focus on rationing supplies to prevent a riot? Do they give up a valuable NPC as a bargaining chip? But, and here is the big but, lock-ins can also go awry. A badly written lock-in scene can make players feel like they have no influence to change the outcome. If players feel like they don't have any proper agency, the lock-in becomes a narrative dead end. My advice for designing a lock-in is not to make it a prison. I mean this figuratively. A great game could be set in a prison. Yes, make your lock-in as claustrophobic as possible, but fill it with opportunities for interaction, like multiple options for escape or resolution. Breakouts, the sweet release. Breakouts can be literal escapes, cue an actual dungeon, or something more psychological. An example of this could be overcoming a flaw that has been trapping a character in a particular stage of development. Some breakouts can even be narrative wins, such as defeating the villain or uncovering a conspiracy. In tabletop role-playing games such as Dungeons & Dragons, successful breakouts come about from a combination of clever thinking and luck. The tension of the lock-in pays off when players overcome it in their own way. In my opinion, the best breakouts are those that surprise the GM, especially when a story is shifted unexpectedly. Let's say our heroes are trapped in an illusory mirror maze. One player remembers the NPC in their party came from a family of illusory wizards. This memory of the NPC's backstory might actually help everyone escape. Allowing for the integration of NPC backstories as part of the breakout design encourages role-playing and a deeper interaction with NPCs, all of which are great for immersion. Deus Ex Machina in TTRPGs. Be careful. Deus Ex Machina can be a bit of a controversial plot device, but let's begin with the positive. Deus Ex Machina provides a touch of dramatic flair. Who doesn't like a bit of divine intervention? How about a sudden betrayal by the villain's lieutenant, or the lucky appearance of a long-lost ally? However, Deus Ex Machina does risk undermining your players' efforts and creative problem-solving. So take note of my warning. Don't make Deus Ex Machina a crutch. An unearned resolution to conflict, which also unexpectedly breaks the rules and limitations of your world, is extremely frustrating, and your players may end up thinking, what was the point of it all? Nevertheless, there are occasions where Deus Ex Machina can be really effective, especially when foreshadowed. A compassionate witch saving the party from certain death might feel earned if the party had previously released her from an enchanted trap. A magical storm wrecking the boats of the enemy is effective if you have already relied on environmental cues throughout the adventure. In these instances, Deus Ex Machina is a payoff rather than a massive plot hole. In TTRPGs, Deus Ex Machina should be used sparingly and openly. Players must believe that the world is consistent and that their actions matter. Sudden and unexplained interventions will break that trust. However, what I will say is that when Deus Ex Machina is used with care, it's a very dramatic and powerful way to conclude a story arc. Curse of Strahd vs Storm King's Thunder, lock-ins, breakouts, and a bit of Deus Ex Machina. Barovia is a classic example of a lock-in. It's an isolated valley ruled by the cruel vampire Strahd. Players cannot easily enter or leave and must survive a closed world of fear and superstition. The lack of escape adds weight to the decisions they make. Our heroes know that every choice matters because leaving isn't an option, until it is. Breaking out of Barovia is the long-term goal, with the final confrontation against Strahd serving as the ultimate test of their abilities. Now, let's compare this with a potential scenario in Storm King's Thunder. Let's suppose the party is massively outnumbered in a battle against a rampaging giant lord, and suddenly a small group of storm giants comes to the rescue, shifting the odds in our hero's favour. If this group appears without any setup, it might feel like Deus Ex Machina has just trampled all over your player's strategy. But the party had allied with these giants earlier, the intervention is earned. In other words, the player's actions contributed to Deus Ex Machina. Without those alliances, the storm giants would have never shown up. How to weave in lock-ins, breakouts, and Deus Ex Machina into your game. To use lock-ins, breakouts, and Deus Ex Machina well, you should consider foreshadowing. Any sudden intervention or escape should be set up. Foreshadowing past events means your players have contributed to the outcome, even if they were surprised. Player agency. Breakout should come from clever play. Even divine interventions should reflect previous choices and shouldn't come out of nowhere. That's annoying. Tone and theme. Everything should align with the story's tone. For example, an adventure that leans into myth could embrace Deus Ex Machina as a nod to fate and the divine will of the gods. Integrate game mechanics. Where possible, tie lock-ins, breakouts, and Deus Ex Machina into game mechanics. Perhaps a player has to roll to resist a curse that locks them in a dream state, or they must spend a significant amount of gold and resources on a spell to get out of the impossible situation they are in. Let your players in on the storytelling. Remember that TTRPGs, including Dungeons & Dragons adventures, are collaborative. GM should let players have some influence on the storytelling. At the bare minimum, it adds an element of randomization, which is rocket fuel for story and scene ideas. In future videos, I'll be talking about the power of randomization and its role in ideation. So what do you think? How will you use lock-ins, breakouts, and Deus Ex Machina in your adventure, or how are you using them now? Anyway, that's all for today, folks, and I'll see you in the next one.